So today we are talking about the garden of your mind, and we're specifically talking about don't water the weeds, okay? So, here in mid-Michigan where I live, it is springtime now, and we are experiencing the flowers coming up, and things are blooming, and of course, allergy season, right? But I really want to talk about this idea of flowers versus weeds. First of all, how do you tell the difference, right? So I was preparing this lesson, and I thought about my kids. And when one of my kids, and I can't even remember which one it was, they were 2 or 3 years old. So they weren't aware of the difference between flowers and weeds. And let's face it, sometimes you just can't tell, right? I remember her, it was one of the girls coming up to me and giving me a handful of dandelions, right? And I was like, wow, that's awesome. Thank you so much. And I go outside and I said, this is great. Let's put them in a vase, And then when we walked outside for something else, I realized, oh my gosh, she just cut down all of my tulips. So these beautiful, colorful flowers, she just cut them all down. And I said, honey, what happened? And she's told me basically, Mom, I really like the yellow, but I don't like the red flowers. And I was like, no, right? But you see, she was a child, right? She didn't understand the difference between those flowers and the weeds. Sometimes we do that with our thinking, don't we? We don't know the difference between flowers, which might be, thoughts about our dreams or our goals, and the difference between weeds, which are, habits of thought or patterns of thought that we've had in the past. And, we've talked about this quite a bit, that your soil of your mind, right? The soil of your mind really is either healthy or it's toxic. So when you're given a thought, a seed, an idea, it's put into soil inside your mind. And that soil really is dependent on the thoughts that you have. Okay, so sometimes when you're beginning this process of learning, growing, and becoming, you don't know the difference between those two types of thoughts, okay? So I really want to talk about that today. Okay, so what you focus on is what you get, right? So the Ralph Waldo Emerson quote, where your focus goes, your energy flows, is really true, isn't it? So what you focus on, you grow inside your mind, okay? This is really important to understand. So the one tip that I can give for you on this one is to watch your emotions. Okay, the subconscious mind. So if you're relatively new to this podcast, there are two parts to your mind. There's the conscious part and the subconscious part. The conscious part of your brain, or your mind, is this awake, aware, alert brain. It's the thing that you're focusing on right now. So if you're really, focusing on this video, you're using your conscious brain, right? However, if you are using your subconscious brain, that's where your feelings, your values, your beliefs, your needs, your identity is, okay? When something is what we call downloaded into your subconscious, you are creating also what we call an autopilot program. So when it comes to, living your life on a daily basis, most people use their subconscious brain around 90% of the time during a normal day. Now, some people say that's good or bad. I don't think it's good or bad. It just is, because the good part is that you don't want to have to stop and think about, what is my past programming for how I tie my shoes, right? I don't want to sit and think about how do I have to tie my shoes. I don't want to sit and think about how do I drive to the grocery store. I don't have to sit and think about how do I brush my teeth, right? So those things are really important. However, when it becomes an issue is when you have developed patterns or habits that no longer serve you well, okay? So, for example, I've told this story before. When I was younger, when I was a 3, 4, 5-year-old little girl, there were many things that kind of happened in my world that probably shouldn't have happened. I believe all parents do the best they can with what they know and what they have. I absolutely believe that. However, I was exposed to some things that probably I should not have been exposed to, right? And I learned very early that in order to stay safe, you need to be still, small, and quiet. Now, as a 3-year-old, when you're dropped off at somebody's house and you don't know what's going to happen, staying still, small, and quiet actually really helped me. So that was a good belief, right? However, currently I'm an international speaker. I'm a coach. I'm a trainer. I pretty much am in the physical sphere, I guess, for lack of a better term. And how does that fit with that belief of staying still, small, and quiet? Well, it doesn't, does it? No. And so I had to, over time, develop new thoughts, new patterns, new downloads into my autopilot that said, no, Michelle, you've got a story to tell. You've got to get out there. You've got to tell people this. It's helpful to them, right? And so that's what I'm talking about today, is really thinking through, what are the flowers in your mind and what are the weeds? Because there sometimes are flowers that were in your mind in the past that have turned into weeds, okay? So my trick or my tip today is really to help you watch your emotions. There are 2 different ways that you can download an autopilot into your subconscious brain. One is through repetition. So anything you do over and over and over again is going to become your habit, right? So for example, if you've always had the habit that at nighttime you sit down with a bowl of ice cream and you watch TV, that's going to be a difficult one to break unless you do something to change that autopilot, right? Now, the other way that you download that program is through emotion, right? And it doesn't have to be a positive or a negative. Emotions are neither positive nor negative. They just are. They're energy and motion, okay? But they can be a really good signal to us about whether this person, this event, this circumstance, this thing, right, is helping or hindering us, okay? So just become aware of your emotions. So for example, if you find that you're having a negative or kind of a yucky emotion, it's probably hindering you from where you want to go. If you're finding that it's a positive emotion, you're feeling really good, right? You just had a conversation, it was amazing. You just did this one thing and you thought it was really cool. You just read this book and you were like, oh, that's awesome, right? You met a new person and you're like, they are my people, okay? So when something like that happens and you feel good, pay attention to that, okay? Because feelings, emotions, remember, that those get downloaded as programs in our subconscious brain. All right. So really what I'm talking about is this idea of alignment and harmony. Do you have harmony within you that's going to get you to your goal? So I thought about a couple examples. So for example, watching TV. Now, watching TV is neither good nor bad. It just is. However, when you're paying attention to your emotions, you can figure out, is it hindering or helping you? Okay. So I'm on this kick right now. I don't know why. I'm not a cook. I'm not a house, person. It's just doesn't come naturally to me. It's not something I enjoy, nor do I ever even really think about, okay? So thankfully, I've got people around me that help with that. Yes, my children are still fed, I promise you that. But I am in this kick right now of watching these cooking shows. And every time I think about watching TV, it's like, I gotta watch that cooking show. Now that's odd because I'm not a cook and I don't want to cook. And I realize it's not even about the cooking. What I am learning though is that there are simple ways to serve people. So I love watching it. Sometimes there's a team on there and I'm watching them for their teamwork. Sometimes it's just one person, but they're talking about keep it simple, right? And so really I am paying attention to the thought processes, not necessarily the cooking, okay? So that for me is really helpful. And after I'm done watching the cooking show, I feel good. However, I could sit down and watch TV and maybe I watch a murder show, right? I used to watch those all the time. And now I find for myself these days, it just doesn't feel good anymore. I used to really enjoy them. They were exciting. There was drama. I would watch, there usually was a team on there. So I was watching their teamwork and their interactions. And these days I look at it and I'm just like, yeah, it just doesn't do it for me anymore. Right. So in reality, you could really just say, all right, this used to be good for me, but now it's not. So it used to be a flower in my mind that was adding value, and now it's kind of taking away value, right? And you can make that decision to change. I used to try to stay up really late. When I was younger, I honestly, I partied with the best of them in my college days. I can admit that. And I stayed up really late. And my husband and I were just talking about this yesterday. I'm an early morning person, right? I have not only learned that I get so much done. I mean, by the time noon comes for every day, I have worked a full day, okay? And now that we're under this pandemic quarantine, I'm actually working a whole lot more because I'm getting up even earlier in order to record videos and content and things while my children are still sleeping, okay? So what I'm saying is that over time, I have realized that early morning helps me. Late night hinders me. Now that's me, right? So I know that there are people out there who are late night individuals, and that's when they begin to sort of wake up and they do their best work. Hey, all the more power to you, right? So I'm not necessarily saying, hey, you need to have a garden in your mind like mine. Hey, your flowers need to be my flowers and your weeds need to be my weeds. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying pay attention, okay? Pay attention to the emotions that are happening within you. So if you have, a conversation with a person and you leave and you go, oh, I really like that person. You know what? They probably should be more of an impact in your life, right? If you have a conversation with a person and you leave and you go, yeah, they don't get it, or you just feel yucky, you need to examine that, okay? Because all of those emotions are downloading things into your autopilot, which becomes the way that you live, okay? So really what we're talking about is using your autopilot to your advantage, being in charge of it, not letting it be a default setting, just what you've, kind of been given throughout your life, but really letting it be by design, something that you choose, something that you're in charge of, okay? All right, so my encouragement to you today is just pay attention to your emotions and write, try to reflect. Okay, say, all right, this is what I'm feeling right now, and ask yourself what just happened, right? Did you talk to a person? Did you watch something on TV? Did you read something? What was happening right before you had that emotion? And is that thing or that person or that conversation helping or hindering you? That's all you got to do. You don't even have to make any changes today. I just want you to become a little bit more aware, okay? Awesome. Okay. All right. So my last thing I want to share with you, kind of my call to action, save the date in less than a week. So on Tuesday, May 12th, we are having a live teaching call. So it'll be a conference call. You just dial in. You don't have to say anything. You're not going to be recorded, right? I'm just going to do a live teaching. There's something about doing a live teaching. There's some energy that happens that you don't get when something is recorded. So I want you to join us if at all possible. I'll put all the information in the description for you, so you'll have that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you tips and tricks that I have learned that worked for me and that have worked for hundreds of coaching clients I've worked with on how to decrease negative influence in your life. Okay, so there's really two places that you get negative influence. One is from your mind, so that's what we were talking about today. And the other one is from the people who are around you. Okay, so I'm going to give you some really cool tricks on how to reduce those negative influences. Okay, and really how to work with some challenging people. So if that's you, if you feel like, oh yeah, I definitely need that help, you'll want to join us next Tuesday, and it's going to be really good. I promise you that. All right. Okay, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. I never take it lightly when people choose to spend time with me, so thank you so much. I hope this added value to you today. And remember, make sure you are cultivating your garden in your mind, you're growing those really good thoughts, and you're paying attention to your emotions, and stop watering those weeds that are not helping you. All right? Thank you so much. With that, I release you into the wild. Go forth and prosper. Have an amazing day, and we'll catch you next time. All right, bye-bye.